Natasha and Her Illegitimate Child in a Muslim Society. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to remind the reader that this novel has been narrated in 2 books. Book 2. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real life of a Muslim family. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Therefore, any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, events, or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 46. The Status of the Illegitimate Daughter in Islam. The police criminal report of the notorious womanizer and child abuser is quite lengthy and included many details about his uncountable crimes. The most abhorring of those crimes is what he did to his daughter. The criminal report mentioned in detail the kidnap and rape of Natasha by her biological father Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. It was the daughter who discovered that she was an illegitimate child of her father. She went first and met him in the biggest mosque in Calgary City and revealed to him her blood relationship with him. She told him she was the daughter of the Sudanese underage girl whom he raped when she was 14 years old and fathered 2 bastard children with her through adultery. Being exposed in front of his religious followers of his adulterous sins with a minor girl, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din called Natasha to his residence. On that day, his daughter had prepared herself for everything except for what her father had planned to do to her. She thought he might threaten her life, blackmail her, and force her to say nothing about his blood relationship with her. She expected that he might attempt to kill her to hide the communal disgrace before his Muslim people would come to know about her relationship with him. He might try to bribe her to shut her mouth. She knew he was filthy rich, and hence, if she asked for $1 million bribe, he might give her to hide his ugly crime and bury his nasty scandal. However, his illegitimate daughter Natasha knew that she would not sell her conscience for $1 billion. As she had come up with thousands of thoughts and worries, but her father had one single plan in his evil mind. He decided to destroy her life and get rid of her forever. Accordingly, he was determined to kill her and silence her mouth for eternity. After the trial of the cowardly terrorist attack on the Apostolic Church Hall, which he orchestrated against his Christian enemies, was over, and he had been exonerated from the charge, the court released him from non-flying restriction and returned his passport to him. That day he knew his life in Canada would become a public disgrace if his daughter, who was born out of adultery, opened her mouth and exposed his relationship to her and told everyone that he fathered her without the sanctity of the marriage bond. It was a mere coincidence that on the following day he was going to fly to Asmara to visit his Eritrean underage wife after a year of separation. He was also planning to fly from Asmara to Cairo to visit his Egyptian wife, and then he would fly to Lagos to meet his Nigerian wife. His flights from Calgary to Asmara, Cairo, and Lagos had already been booked for the evening on the following day. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din knew that according to the Islamic Sharia, the daughter born out of adultery is not a daughter at all. The Sharia even allows the Muslim man to marry and have sex with his daughter, which he fathered her out of adultery, because such a relation is not lawfully recognized in Islam. The renowned commentator Al-Qurtubi, commenting on Surah Al-Furqan 25, verse 54, said, "The Muslim man could marry and have sex with his daughter born out of adultery because adultery would not establish a blood relationship." Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din never felt for a second that the young woman who met him in front of the biggest mosque and claimed to be his daughter that in any way she is related to him. She had remained in his sight the apostatized and accursed Sudanese woman who brought disgrace to the Muslim community in Calgary. Since she openly declared herself an apostate from Islam, she deserved the death penalty. If she happened to be in a Muslim country, her parents or the Sharia court would put her to death and her body would be burned with fire. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din believed that as a religious leader it was his duty to apply the Islamic Sharia on the apostatized Muslim girl Natasha. Therefore, that day he determined to defy the Canadian secular law, apply his sacred Islamic Sharia, make everybody in the Muslim community and among the infidel Christians know that he was the one who feared Allah and carried out his judgment on the apostatized Muslim woman Natasha, the wife of the accursed Sudanese apostate priest Wahid. On that day, Natasha changed her Western dress and put on a Sudanese sari, which she expected by wearing it she would impress her father and win his favor. Before that day, she always used to put on a shirt and trousers. She even dressed up in short pants that exposed her thighs and hips, and shirts showed her arms and shoulders. However, that day, she covered her long hair with a hijab and dressed up in a simple loose dress. She removed all her makeup and jewelry. She avoided applying any perfume or putting on any finery. She knew her father was a deeply religious man and might not like her to dress up herself with all those worldly things. As much as she prepared herself to impress him, her father prepared himself to surprise her. Natasha did not take the car of her late grandpa, but she called a taxicab. She did not want anyone from his Pakistani in-laws, Sudanese Muslim friends, and religious followers to see her family car parking in front of his mansion. On her way, Natasha visited her daughter's babysitter and kept her child with her. On her arrival, her father welcomed her at the gate and escorted her to one of his spacious and opulent rooms. He was living in southwest Calgary in one of the most affluent neighborhoods. Each house's market value is $1 million plus. His huge mansion had a market value of $5 million. Natasha was a bit surprised when she found herself inside a bedroom instead of a living room. Without inviting her to sit, her father went to the room door and securely closed it. The daughter had immediately perceived something dangerous about to happen to her. She thought he might attack her and strangle her to death. She began to tremble like one of the deer that saw a wolf close to her. Her biological father became like a voracious beast that had his helpless prey cornered. Natasha had concluded that he was going to kill her. No matter what she thought he was going to do to her, she had never expected him to rape her. His long beard showed he was a pious Muslim leader. However, when he began to speak, he took all the winds out of her sail. Do you think this article and your letter have any value in the Islamic Sharia? According to our blessed Sharia, you are not my daughter because I had fathered you out of adultery. At that time, I was rebellious like you and not a true Muslim at all. The Islamic Sharia permits the father to sleep with his daughter who was born to him out of adultery. He is even allowed to marry her. This license is mentioned in the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Furqan 25, verse number 54. If you don't want to accept me as your daughter, at least stay away from me and my husband. Why do you want to kill us? I am not the one who wants to kill you. It is our blessed Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and prayers of Allah be upon him, who ordered us to kill you and your accursed husband, because both of you forsook the religion of Islam and embraced the Christian religion of the filthy infidels. Both of you are apostates, and according to the Sharia, the shedding of your blood is permissible. It is an obligation on every faithful Muslim to kill you. If you hate the infidels and their Christian religion, why do you stay in their country? Why don't you go back to your Muslim country and follow your cruel and barbaric Sharia law? With your filthy tongue and little knowledge of Islam, do you want to teach me what to do and not to do? Do you think that I am going to let you go out of here and allow you to drag me before the court of those unclean infidels as you did before? When Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din spoke those last words, his animalistic sex nature overpowered him. At that moment, his sexual desire blinded him and turned him into a heart without emotions and a head without a brain. His body is burning with unquenchable lust. He saw in his daughter nothing except a feminine body that he lusted after. She became to him as fresh meat and he wants to devour it. He then ran towards her and pushed her against the wall. Natasha had been taken by surprise. Her body hit the wall and gave her severe pain. However, she quickly overcame the pain, stood up, and pushed him back. He came again and attacked her. This time she was ready for him. She scratched his face and kicked him. He kicked back and held her hair. While he was pulling her hair, Natasha struggled for some time to free her hair from his hands. When she could not free her hair, she used her leg and kicked him on his private parts. He released her hair due to the terrible pain she inflicted on him. As soon as her hair was freed, Natasha began to run around. He chased her around the room. She jumped on the bed. He jumped after her. She jumped off the bed. He jumped behind her. He overtook her and held her from her back. She could not use either hands or legs to free herself from his firm grip. She struggled violently to free herself, but she could not. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din was a tall and extraordinarily strong man. He was like the giant Palestinian man Goliath, and to him she was like the little Jewish boy David. Then the evil man forced his daughter down on the floor. She knelt on her knees and continued to struggle for her freedom. He took hold of her hand and twisted it behind her back. She began to scream from the pain. Somehow, she managed to get hold of his body and bite him. Her sharp teeth forced him to release her. Natasha immediately hit him in the face and sprang away. He chased her again. In the meantime, she was screaming on top of her voice. Unfortunately, all surrounded neighbors in that neighborhood were houses of Sudanese and other Muslims' residences. It is quite a common phenomenon in that neighborhood that the woman's voice very often heard screaming, and no one bothered to call the police or try to rescue her. This is because the Prophet Muhammad said, "A man shouldn't be asked why he is beating the members of his household." Sunan Abu Dawud, Book 11, Hadith number 2142. It is a daily happening a rebellious daughter gets beaten by her father or a disobedient woman being battered by her husband. In the Quran, Surah Al-Nisa 4, verse 34, Allah allows the Muslim man to beat his disobedient women. On that day, no matter how long or how loud Natasha would scream, and every neighbor might hear her shouting until her evil father scourged her to death, no one was going to call the cops on him. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din was able to reach his daughter Natasha and grabbed her delicate body by his rough hands again. This time, he pushed her to the bed. She fell on her back. He mounted her body, and his hands pressed her head against the bed. She was kicking and screaming, while he was sweating and shivering. He felt as if he was trying to control a dangerous animal. She continued to struggle under his heavy weight. He brought his mouth near her face to either kiss her or bite her. She hit his mouth with her forehead. The blood gushed out of his mouth. He let go of her and jumped backwards. She pushed him away and ran. He did not chase her this time. Instead, he held his mouth and continued to look at her. She stood in a corner. When she realized that he was not attacking her, she attacked him instead. But he hit her on the face before she could touch him. His blow this time was so powerful that it caused her to fall flat on the floor. As soon as she fell, he jumped over her. She could not struggle much this time. He held her dress and tore it apart. When she saw her dress opened in two halves, she fought back. He continued to tear her clothes piece after piece. In the meantime, she kicked him, slapped him, and pushed him. But none of her strikes could hinder him from stripping her clothes from her body. He continued to pull off her clothes piece after piece. When her outgarment was fully gone, she remained only in her bra and underwear. Her evil father stretched his right hand and caught hold of her bra and took it off her breasts. The sight of her exposed breasts drew him into a state of insanity. But before he could snatch away her underwear, she hit him on his stomach with her leg. That last kick made him stop. He stood up and backed away. When she was released, she stood too and walked backwards. She was staggering and sweating. She was also trembling and bleeding from head to foot. She stopped calling for help because she realized that there was no one there to respond to her screaming. She also thought that her wicked father had locked her up in a soundproof room. For a while, both were struggling for breath. Natasha stood away and looked at her father as a dangerous beast. She could not believe that that terrible demon who was standing before her vision was her real father. By this time, she had become fully aware that he was trying to rape her before killing her. Meanwhile, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din was looking at his daughter with eyes full of lust. His mouth was still bleeding. His clothes were also torn. He could see her naked body standing before him. It was only covered by a small piece of red underwear. The rest of her clothes were scattered everywhere, while the remaining covering was hanging like a bandage between her waist and exposed thighs. The sight of her naked body had transformed him into a sex maniac and made him try again. Then the notorious womanizer and child abuser was overcome by his lust and attacked his daughter again. Meanwhile, Natasha was violently hitting him with her fists on his head, face, and body, but she could not keep him away. It seemed that he turned into a stone man. By then she was left only in her underwear. He forced her to the floor. She was struggling less than before. She was exhausted because her evil father had weakened her strength of resistance and beaten all the fight out of her. She felt that her strength could fail her any moment. She was losing faith in herself. She understood that her feminine strength could not be able to strive forever against his masculine power. He forced her under his heavy weight. She could only fight now with her mouth and eyes. She was screaming in his ears. She called him by every bad name she knew. She called him an evil father and a demon-possessed religious leader. He had not paid attention to her words. Now his only aim was to pull out her last covering and force himself inside her. Natasha was like a drowning person who could hold on to everything that might come her way. She held his long beard and pulled it down. She scratched his face with her fingernails. She spat on him many times. She was crying for help. All her efforts could not take him off her body. She felt his right hand grab her last virtuous covering and began to pull it down. At that critical time, she caught hold of his shoulder and began to bite it. He screamed and let go of her and jumped off her badly battered body. She had not let go of his shoulder. He was groaning and gnashing his teeth due to the terrible pain and hit her everywhere to release his shoulder. It seemed that her teeth were like sharp nails that had been inserted in his flesh until they hit bones. The devil incarnated had pulled violently and released himself. Natasha was now restless and gasping for breath. Every part of her body was giving her unbearable pain. Her teeth, forehead, cheeks, shoulders, hands, thighs, hips, legs were all bleeding profusely. Her clothes were scattered in bits and pieces everywhere. She was naked and wounded. She was in a miserable condition. She had never expected one day in her life that she would be reduced to such a desperate situation. She wished that she was dead and gone before such a fateful day would come in her life. A black day in which she had been brutishly raped by her own father. Her eyes were wide open. She could not be able to distinguish the objects before her eyes. She repeatedly closed her eyes and opened them, but she could not see things clearly. She began to feel everything around her was moving in a cyclone as they had been hit by a powerful dust devil. Therefore, the daughter Natasha had lost consciousness and fallen as lifeless body on the floor. Satan the devil knew that his daughter had lost her consciousness and become powerless. Then he bent over her unconscious body and began lustfully to feel it. His hands were rapidly moving all over her naked body. When he became sure that his daughter was unconscious of his hands' touches, Sheikh Yasser Sef al-Din started stripping her underwear. Then he removed his wolf's clothing and mounted her unconscious body. Due to the rubbing and fondling of her body, Natasha regained half of her consciousness. However, her badly battered body continued to be dormant. Then she felt his male organ had found her private parts and started to cut through like a knife. That feeling gave her an ugly sensation. Although she opened her eyes and saw dimly the silhouette of her father, she could not move a limb of her paralyzed body. She felt his fleshless skeleton, as if a crocodile was moving on her body. His bones were poking her flesh as sharp thorns. His toothless mouth, which produces an odor of bad breath, was approaching her like a poisonous snake. He lost his artificial teeth during his fight with her. Then he began to suck and lick her lips like a mad dog. That gave her an ugly sensation, which caused her to throw up everything she ate and drank that day. While she was vomiting, she felt his penis has fully inserted itself inside her vagina and began cut and saw up and down like a rusty saw. That gave her unbearable pain as if her father were sawing her in two halves. She wanted to cry from the unbearable pain, but her voice failed her. While the monstrous father was raping his innocent daughter, her tears were falling on her cheeks like hot acid and blinding her vision. Before her Muslim father had ejaculated his semen and emptied his filthiness inside her vagina and defiled her virtuous body, the daughter fell in a coma, and soon she drowned in the sea of darkness of death. The illegitimate daughter had miraculously survived her Muslim father's brutal rape and his attempt to murder her. On that Black Friday evening, after repeatedly raping his daughter, the wicked father tied her hands and legs with ropes and sealed her mouth with strong tape. He wanted her to die in the most painful death that he ever thought of. He wanted to starve her to death. After raping her, he took a heavy object, struck her on her head, and then hit her body. When she began to bleed, he left her to die in that miserable condition. He expected that she was going to bleed to death. He could kill her, but the evil Muslim father wanted his illegitimate daughter to suffer for a long time before she died. It was just like a young woman got raped, beaten, then crucified and left to suffer in her cross for a few days before she could breathe her last breath. He expected that she would bleed to death and succumb to her life-threat wounds, which he had inflicted in her badly battered body. Then he securely locked up the room and left her inside. On that evening, he slept peacefully in his house as if he had done nothing. When he woke up in the morning, he checked on his victim, and when he found her in that lifeless state, he became assured that she was not going to survive for long. After that, the Muslim father took his travel bags and left his house. On his way to the Calgary International Airport, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din stopped at his bank and withdrew every single dollar he had and closed all his accounts. He converted his Canadian dollars into foreign hard currencies such as American dollars, British pounds, and euros. He carried with him to the international airport a bag full of hard foreign currencies. When his plane took off, he thanked his Allah and prayed to his demonic god that he should not allow his feet again to touch the soil of that infidel's land. The police of Calgary had found the missing Christian wife Natasha half dead in the mansion of Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din, who brutally raped her and attempted to murder her. She was rushed immediately by the ambulance to the nearest hospital and admitted into the emergency unit. A week later from the day she was brutally raped and beaten by her cruel father, the daughter was able to regain some of her strength. Then she had been transferred from the ICU to a private room in the hospital. The police kept tight security in front of her room. No one could visit her except her husband and the hospital staff. In the beginning, Natasha refused to disclose any information to the police or even to her husband the reason about her mysterious visit to her father's house. The police did not try to bother her with any question until her doctor declared that she was in a stable mental state and she could be interrogated. When she had been questioned by the police about her visit to Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din's residence, Natasha boldly disclosed the reason which made her visit the den of that evil Muslim leader. She said that when she discovered through the article of the newspaper that he was her biological father, she went to the mosque and told him in front of his followers about her blood relationship with him. He was the one who called her cell phone on the same day and asked her to come to his house. She expected that he would realize his mistake and stop tracking down her life and the life of her husband. Instead, her Muslim father raped her and tried to murder her. He told her because he fathered her out of adultery, according to the Quran, she could not be considered his daughter. Therefore, he believed Islam allows the father to sleep with his daughter who was born to him out of adultery. The incredible police statement of Natasha had made each ear hurted, becoming numb. Muslims received her statement with mistrust and disbelief. None of them was prepared to believe or accept that such a pious and devout Muslim leader as Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din would do such evil thing to the woman who claimed to be his daughter. All the Sudanese and other Muslims in Calgary City collectively believed that the so-called blood relationship of that apostatized Muslim woman Natasha with Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din was another fabrication of that accursed Sudanese priest Wahid. Some of his followers approached the police department and requested that before the police would jump to any hasty conclusion about their righteous leader, they should wait for his return and listen to his statement. His Pakistani wife complained about the serious allegations that had been directed against her righteous husband. She strongly believed that her Muslim husband is a victim of a malicious conspiracy concocted by the two Muslim apostates, The wife Natasha and her husband Wahid and some Christian police officers have hands in it. She appeared in the media and said that the police of Calgary failed to nail her holy husband with the terrorist attack, and therefore they came up with that crime of kidnap and rape to involve him in new ugly serious charges. The Muslim imam of the biggest mosque in Calgary City, who is the father-in-law of Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din, backed up the complaint of his daughter and asked for a DNA test to verify who raped the Sudanese woman, Natasha. When the police refused to accept their request, the Pakistani daughter and her father submitted through a Muslim lawyer an official lawsuit at the criminal court. The court accepted their demand and ordered a DNA test to be conducted as soon as possible. Before that DNA test was done, the rape victim had been discovered by the hospital to have been impregnated by her rapist Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. The Christian wife Natasha and her husband Wahid claimed that after their baby girl Nadia was born, they planned not to have a second child in the near future because both are students and, depending on the little income which they are getting through their student loans, every time they had sex, they used a condom. Therefore, it is not possible that her husband impregnated her. If it were not her husband, then she must have been impregnated by no one other than her own biological father, and such a discovery raised serious moral issues. The moral issue arose from the fact that Natasha and her husband do not believe in abortion. According to their religious belief, abortion is murder, and they are not ready to commit such an abomination. Many moralists, religionists, and human rights activists believe that Natasha should abort such a baby. If such a child could survive and be born, then he would face a serious ethical problem. He would suffer from serious multiple personality disorders and identity crisis. What is his mother going to be to him or her? Would she be his or her mother and his or her big sister? How is he or she going to be related to Natasha's daughter Nadia? Would he be to her a brother and at the same time her uncle? Or would she get to be her sister and auntie at the same time? These moral issues are discussed and hotly debated at the Department of Religious Studies and Ethics at the University of Calgary. Many professors of ethics and religious studies have been interviewed on TV and requested to voice their opinions on the moral issue of the daughter's pregnancy by her father. Even religious men from various religions have been asked to tell their views on that ethical issue. There are many polls drawn on radio and TV channels. Most of the people believed that such a baby should be aborted. However, the daughter Natasha stood firmly by her decision to keep the baby. She argued that the baby is innocent and aborting it would be a murder. She stated very clearly that she is not going to kill her baby to satisfy the moral conscience of society. While that ethical question was hotly debated in society, the Calgary Criminal Court order had been implemented and the DNA tests were conducted. The police provided many personal objects such as a toothbrush and comb used by Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din that supplied his DNA symbol. The DNA tests have confirmed two important things. Firstly, it has been proved that Natasha is the daughter of her rapist. Secondly, it has confirmed that Natasha had been raped and abused by her biological father, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. Despite the 100% accurate DNA test results, so many Muslims continued to remain in denial. In consequence of those DNA test results, the Calgary police issued an arrest warrant against the suspect Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. Wherever the fugitive father is to be found, he must be arrested and shipped back to Canada to stand trial for the heinous crimes which he committed against his daughter Natasha.